Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons.
Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video.
Hey there, Rulers. DMO73 here, bringing you another feature match for the week. I am playing a Valentina list versus Pricia again, but I am playing a Valentina Gorgon list, based in part off of a list designed by Min Ha, and I am playing against Justin Seals, who is playing a 4 Sacred Beast Pricia deck. That is very much more heavily geared towards utilizing the, it's a lot more focused on using the 4 Sacred Beasts than we saw, like really much more all in, like 4 copies of Huang Long, lots of different copies of the beasts than we saw before. So mainly this is to show off the Gorgon list. We just happened to get paired up against Justin, and I thought it would be a good match to record. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. So Valentina going to be going on the draw, and yeah, we'll jump right in. Very similarly in the vein of a lot of Valentina lists, not necessarily the Reanimator one, but especially this one, really wants to try to turbo flip, which is why going on the draw is really nice. So we have the ability to be able to use Lover's Lock very, very quickly. And also don't want to give Pricia the opportunity to play Claw on turn 1, potentially. So we'll have to see how it goes. Turn 1 Deepwood from Justin. Down comes the Hot Spring, so he's going to go ahead and grab a 4 Sacred Beast. I believe he grabs Turtle here. Is there something else he can do here? We're going to go ahead and kind of move fast through the turn here. We're kind of waiting to see which one he grabs. And then we'll go ahead and take the turn on my side. Yep, does end up grabbing Jean Wu, the Turtle. Pretty standard first turn play for most Pricia lists. It is kind of the 4 Sacred Beasts you always want to have access to with the Hot Spring. It does a lot of work, being able to have that instant speed bounce, hit a Dark Depths off the top, and then choosing to say pass. Calling Stone hits a Blasting Waves. See a second copy of Hot Spring here, so no Claw. Which would have been nice to be able to immediately, you know, it's kind of the ideal turn 1 to turn 2. We didn't see it. At least this way he gets his second friendship counter here. Goes and grabs a Zhu Kuei, the Phoenix. Ultimately choosing to pass the turn there. Going into the Valentina turn, we're going to go ahead and also call Stone. Main reason being we don't want to quite flip quite yet, since Pricia isn't applying a ton of pressure, and because there's just some things that we can do to potentially disrupt things. We want to be able to make use of, the primary reason is we want to be able to make use of Lover's Lock during the upkeep when we quick cast in. If he doesn't play any creatures down, we're just not going to get that much value off of it. So he gets to go ahead and play the Huang Long here. We hit a Zhu Kuei, still only at 2 friendship counters, so the guys aren't live yet. The Hot Springs aren't live yet. And then we did see a Magna was the other card that he shot here. So with 1 green blue stone, if he plays a Mole here to get a Wind Regalia, we imagine to go get Claw, then we turn those on, and suddenly there's a lot more value here. But ultimately just choosing to pass the turn at that point in time after draw on my turn, we're going to go ahead and use Lover's Lock to make Judgment 0 and get a Stranger. Ultimately, one thing to note here, we use 2 6-sided dice. This is absolutely what you should not do. You should be using a 10-sider if you're going to use dice at all, simply because with 2 6-sided dice, it's impossible to roll a 1. So just keep that in mind. Also, before the upkeep here, we're going to go ahead and cost a Betrayer Returns, targeting one of his creatures to make it 0 attack. I think we target the Huang Long here to make it 0 attack. Potentially thinking about using a, you see I start to cast it, the lab, to use it to kill the Huang Long. We're going to go out and play the lab here. We start to go ahead and use it on the Huang Long to get that extra counter. And then at that point in time, we're going to go ahead and pass the turn. Oh no, choosing to go back. Justin being a good sport about it. Figuring out exactly whether or not that's the right move to use. So we're gonna leave the statue up, and instead we're going to go ahead and do the spell from hand of Forbidden Spell, and still leave up the lab for something else potentially. So Forbidden Summoning gets us the 3 Gorgons, and because it's our hand and because Valentina's flipped, they get to come into play. These can then do what we need to do. So we use Uriel to tap down the Zukwe. We used the other one, Ephorite, I think is called, to actually we're tapping down Huang Long, removing all the abilities from Zukwe, and then putting in Medusa into play. The reason why we tap down Huang Long and remove all the abilities of Zukwe is the lab, naturally, because of Valentina's -4 attack, can just kill Zukwe outright right now. So the idea being that we're going to respond to like him playing a horn, or a claw, by killing the Zukwe before it gets the buffs. Something like that, to just kind of steal a little bit more value off of what he's going to get the turn he plays the claw. Unfortunately, still only has 2 friendship counters, so not a lot of value that it's going to get off of that. It doesn't look like he has a ton of ways to generate them in hand, and we're still not seeing a claw. So we're going to see, just to get that 3rd friendship counter on live, we're casting a Super Burning Grease Rush. So this is going to get him his 3rd counter, so he'll get to roll 3 dice. Using a 4-sided die for the 4 modes. So he gets a Stranger, burns me for 5, and recovers 2 stones. So no token here, gets to get 2 stones back and get a Stranger down to 35. Once again, should be using a 10-sided die here and not the 2 6-siders. So the real benefit of doing that is just because he wants to cast it. You get to recover the 2 stones, which is very nice. But now he gets to turn on his Hot Springs, which is the main value there. Still, though, counters don't mean a ton other than turning on Hot Spring, because there's still no claw, and you see there's still no claw in hand. The longer Pricia goes without a claw against something like Valentina, the more we kind of get outpaced, because eventually Valentina starts to have a handful of removal that we can really effectively use in response to the casting of the claw. We can put the claw back, we get more chances to find like Undine and stuff like that to bounce the claw back to hand. There's a lot of things that we can do with it to really start disrupting Pricia's game plan. One, 2. Down comes another Huang Long. So we're going to get another 4 Sacred Beasts out of this. Don't have any way to respond to it. I think before the cast, we're going to go ahead and kill that Zukwe, because we want to make it so that he potentially hits another Zukwe, because it's kind of the least worrisome of the 4 Sacred Beasts at this moment. So we kill the one out of the way, just to make sure we don't see opens up the opportunity for him to hit another one, as opposed to a turtle, as opposed to a Huanglong, stuff like that. Keep digging. Shows us he has, those claws. There is that we did end up hitting the Phoenix here. Just kind of checking to see what exactly we made him shuffle through. We made him shuffle away 3 Super Burning Beast Rushes, as well as 2 of the claws. So it kind of gives me some insight into what's in his hand just by looking at the stuff that was revealed. So we'll give him that to be able to shuffle in. So again, the main point is here, we wanted to make it so that as he was committing that card to the board, it got him his least amount of value possible. A Zukwe was already on board, not doing much, so now we made it so Huang Long just replaced the Zukwe with another Zukwe that's online, not doing much. And it does tap Justin out. Now he does have access to 4 Sacred Beasts, a quick cast speed, 2 of them, because of Hot Springs, which is something we definitely have to watch out for. But at the same time, we still have a pretty good solid board presence. We're calling stones effectively. We don't have to deal with the attack buff. We still have access to God Art from Valentina, and we're up on Will, which is great. So we can pretty effectively call stones here as well, because we have this nice kind of blocker wall, as well as any potential removal in our hand, such as things like Betrayer Returns or anything else, because Justin has had this kind of slow start. So we're swinging in for 8 with Medusa. first hot spring's going to get cast here. Down comes in that turtle. He can bounce a 2-drop or less. Really, the only things on the board here would be his own stuff, or the Collar of Gorgons on my side. He's going to go ahead and bounce the Collar of Gorgon back to my hand. Not really doing much anyway, so it's kind of okay. We're going to go ahead and swing for the 8. He tries to block with the Zukwe, or sorry, the John Woo, and that's a little bit of a mistake because Medusa triggers when she's blocked. So, Turtle will also trigger to prevent the damage, but then Medusa says, yeah, but we'll shuffle you back into the deck anyway, and that's fine. And then Medusa gets to go through and connect and hit for 8 damage anyway. Down comes the Collar of Gorgons, and we still leave ourselves open with 5 will and pass to Justin's turn. We're going to go ahead and, actually, no, we're going to go ahead and swing in with the Zukwe, the one that can attack, because we removed all the abilities from the Zukwe, so that doesn't really matter because it's gone now. So we'll swing in for another 7, taking him down to 25. I'm access to 5 will, still have access to being able to kill the Zukwe if we need to. So we're going to go ahead and say pass the turn. He's going to try to play another Zukwe. In response to the trigger of the first Zukwe, I think we use... Oh, right. We actually flash in a Freya to redirect the burn from my creature to the other Zukwe. And so that gets us a body on board. It steals one of his things. And then now that that's happened as well, we're going to go ahead and use the lab to kill the other one. So really just putting Justin on the back foot here. All he has is the Huang Longs. They don't get any buffs right now. They're both just blank 5/5s. One of them doesn't get to untap, which we'll catch here in a little bit. Still doesn't have access to Claw. Staring down a board of blockers, as well as still having access to 3 will and Valentina God Art. There's just a lot of things that we can still do here. And as you can see, we have the Freya on board. I apologize for the brightness. There was some weirdness with the lighting that day. Pays 2, pays full cost for a Zukwe. So at this point in time, we've seen 4 of the Zukwes. Calling Stone with Pricia. Other Blasting Waves. Pays 2 for another Huang Long. Seeing which one we hit here. We don't really have a way to kill the Zukwe effectively at this point, and ultimately we're really not too concerned. If he hits Turtle again, it could be, and Justin admits that the only one he could possibly hit is Turtle, because it seems like the Huanglongs are in his hand still, like we're going to be making use of them. The top card does happen to be Turtle anyway. Justin, knowing his deck, knows that the only thing he's going to hit is a Turtle at this point. So we get to grab the Turtle, bounce a 2-drop, Collar Gorgons going right back in our hands. And it seems like we probably have a couple Huanglongs that are going to come down this turn to set up for some pretty potential powerful plays. Justin still have access to 1 will, but does have access to both of these. Hot springs as well. We see a Huanglong, which is going to draw him a card. And then he goes to activate the next hot spring to put in a Zalus in response to the hot spring, though, because that would be getting him his 4th one. So before they all have barrier and swiftness and flying, we're going to go ahead and use Valentina's God Art to try to remove one of the Huanglongs from the game. The other one will still remain face up. That's fine. We only have to get rid of one on the field. That's how Valentina's God Art works. We get to see what the rest of his hand is, which is important. We get to remove the 4th copy from the deck. The copy from the graveyard is gone. So like at this point, it's like, well, that's all. There's only 2 because there's 2 on field. So one of them is tapped down. Seeing in his hand, we've got Red Wizard, Zeus Alice, and then I don't remember what the 3rd card is here. You do get to get a Stranger off of the Valentina's God Art. Very important. I missed that in the first match with Valentina. So what I did was, for the roll there, I just cycled around. So if it passed over the number, I just cycled back to the top of the deck and continued to go. That's definitely one way you could also do it with 2 dice, although I don't really recommend it, because it just increases your chances of hitting certain numbers. The Zeus Alice does get to enter. Now all of them have swiftness and flying and barrier. The problem is that they all have -4 attack, because there's no claw. So right now, the board is not dealing a ton. One of the Huanglongs is permanently tapped. The Zeus Alice can hit me for 4. The Zuquay hits me for 0. The Turtle hits me for 1. The Dragon hits me for 4. And the Huang Long hits me for 9. And then even if he pays 1 wheel to pump them all up, that's another 8. So 9 plus 8 is 17. Plus 8 is 25. Maximum 26 damage coming in here in the air, leaving him completely tapped out for the crackback, which will definitely be lethal, especially since I have Medusa to be able to pump everyone up. And then, it doesn't kill me at all. So this is one of those situations where Valentina's passive effect to remove attacks is very, very helpful. Talking about how I could potentially make it so that all my Gorgons get +4/+4, which if he does decide to swing in, and he has that red wizard in hand, if he does decide to swing in and try to kill my board state or anything, he's going to end up taking a lot of trades, which is really not what he wants to be doing by tapping out and kind of burning all these resources. Unless he had like a super burning beast rush in hand and just wanted to follow up for a kill that way, it's definitely an option. So swinging in with Zalus at the Medusa, kind of re-explaining that it's going to be a 10-10 if he does that. Justin kind of thinking about what he wants to do here, whether or not he just wants to kind of set up a board state to kind of match mine and block it. Yes, there's the Medusa in the way, but ultimately, he's got a bunch of other blockers. I can't really target them, so that might feel comfortable for him to be able to kind of say pass. Does ultimately do decide to just say pass. Say, well, they have blocking, they have barrier, so at least can't kill me. Getting up in high and will, I might draw into a super burning beast rush, at which point I can just kind of choose to awaken it and kill you that way, because I've taken any amount of damage. But then again, he can just like swing in the other crackback or something with a single card and take me down to where he'd have to deal 1,500 to make that happen first. So Medusa swinging in for 1,000 because we did pump them up with Medusa's ability beforehand. Says that's fine, I'll take the damage, goes down to 15. Swing in with the Steno to try to do another 9. He says that's fine, I'll take that. Swing in with the Freya for attempted lethal because he's at 6. Goes to block with the Zeus Alice. They bounce off each other because neither one's strong enough to kill the other. Swing in with the Uriel for 10. Blocks with the Turtle. In response to the Turtle's trigger to try to prevent all damage to itself, we're going to go ahead and flash in the Blue Wizard to cancel the trigger, which means that it is going to take the damage from Uriel, which means that it is going to die. And so now he doesn't control 4 Sacred Beasts with 4 different names, so they don't have barrier anymore. At which point in time, Valentina can swing in for lethal, because I have a form of removal thanks to the Betrayer Returns and the statue, the lab. Swinging for 6. Goes to block with the Huanglong. Betrayer Returns here. And then we can use the statue. We forgot about the combination of statue plus laboratory plus Betrayer Returns to be able to kill the Huanglong out of the way, which kills it. And then Valentina gets arrow and we go to game 2.
As we go into the next game, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so you're notified when all of our videos goes live, and consider supporting the channel by being a member here on YouTube or by checking it out on Patreon for all the cool exclusive perks that come with supporting us. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to the next game.
So game 2 here, Justin choosing to take the draw so he can potentially drop that turn 1 claw, or just has another chance to see other cards. Like Super Burning Beast Rush or anything else. We see a turn 1 blue green stone, not what Valentina wants to be seeing. Turn 1 blue green stone from Justin, but we do see an Energize for a Huang Long on turn 1. Calling a stone, second green blue, not what we wanted to see at all. Doesn't let us set up a turn 2 Lover's Lock potential play. Not good against Pricia that seems to have a really good start here. It did hit the Huanglong, so we didn't at least draw a card, but this is still 15 damage represented on board, especially if he can play a claw here on turn 2. Maybe makes it even bigger than that. It makes them an additional 4 damage, so taking 19 off the cuff. Swings in for 7, swings in for 8. We can't do anything about it. Take the total, go down to 25. Down comes a Hot Spring, gets him another friendship counter. Gets to go get any Sacred Beast he wants. He is playing the cute Zalus, as we saw before in game 1. The idea here being Zalus is you can't, it's not necessarily something they're expecting over Tiger. It gives you like a 5th for Sacred Beast just in case something happens with Valentina ripping all of them out of your hand, so that you have something to be able to turn Huang Longs online, just in case. It's kind of a precaution that not a lot of people think that you necessarily need to be doing, but it is something to kind of make use of. So we have a couple of moles here to go get us. We had a mole the previous turn, and we have a mole this turn to go get us Claw. And this is where we're going to see a lot of that damage start to kick in. So we're definitely probably playing the Claw this turn, which means we're going to be up to 5 friendship counters, so everything's getting +5/+5. You see he's got that Zukui in hand to use off of the Hot Spring, so that's going to be dealing 9 damage. It's potentially just a lot of lethal here. In response to the casting of the Claw, though, we're going to make put Huanglong back in his hand. We're going to zero out the attack of, I think we zero out the attack of Huang Long. No, we're getting a stranger. Sorry. Trying to get a stranger, seeing if we can hit something off of it. And space timing, using it to space time the Huang Long now that it's gone. So before the counters plug in, sure, he gets those 2 counters, but it hasn't entered yet, so the puff's not there. And because there's not a 4 Sacred Beast on board, the Huang Long dies. Now, Justin could have just as easily, in response to that, used the Hot Spring to flash in Zukui to protect the Huang Long, ultimately choosing not to do that. We're going to do it now, though, which is still fine. And we can, just to put a body on board, we're going to flash in that Blue Wizard to cancel the trigger to burn something. And then we can throw Blue Wizard under the bus, just so we're not going to take this massive amount of damage in this turn. Because with 5 counters, each of those moles are 8s, and the Zukui is 9. So we don't want to take 9. We are going to accept that we're going to be taking 16 here. Justin choosing not to attack with the one that can attack, though, which is a little bit of an interesting kind of underutilization. Calling Stone because we don't have the ability to perform Judgment this turn. Trying to cast trying to use Uriel to at least tap down the Zukui so we don't get it recovered, at which point in time we're going to do, in response, a Burning Rush, and with that we're just going to go ahead and scoop up and say go next game. So the thing is, the Pricia deck just died there. We're stopping the 3 cost there, knowing that he still has all this value left. There was no reason to play the rest of game 2, because ultimately he's just going to have so much value off of it. there's no way I don't immediately die on a crackback. So Justin taking that turn 1, getting the Zhu Kuei off of the altar, or off of the hot spring, and then passing there into me for the interest of time, and because we play each other, just kind of taking my turn since there's nothing else really Justin can do. Turn 1 Stone of Deep Woods, playing a Percival, gets to go give me a Lover's Lock. An excellent start here. We're still choosing to burn our Energize, and we're going to use a Look of Corruption here to try to see if there's a Regalia to stop a turn 2 play. No Regalia there, which feels great for us, but ultimately we do choose to take the Burning Rush. We don't want that removal spell or that petitional intentional damage, especially if we can get things like Uriel or even Valentina herself is susceptible to Burning Rush damage potentially, and we want to just stay safe. Plays a couple of moles here with his 2 will for the turn. Gonna go get his claw off the top. Definitely a little bit risky here because he's tapping out for it, but he just wants to get those friendship counters here, so we'll have to see kind of what comes out of it on our side. We're going to take the 4 damage from the Zhu Kuei after it burns the Percival, go into the next turn. Have to call stone, sadly. Do get the black blue stone though, which is nice. We want to start generating value here, and we know that there's a card in his hand, the Claw. So what we're going to do here is we're going to play the Lover's Lock modes to get a Stranger and bounce the Zhu Kuei back to his hand. Gets us a card, gets rid of a card, and then we're going to cast, you'll see it here, the Valentina discard spell, the one that puts a card back on bottom of the deck, because we want to rip that Claw out of his hand. He doesn't have the will to cast it right now because he burned his Energize, but still, the card is bad news for us to have in his hand. And I think also at this point in the time, we do have a Wanderer in Nightmare Land, so potentially next turn we could cast it and try to clear all the 1-drops out of the way or something like that. So we're just going to see the Claw and immediately ship it to the bottom of the deck. We failed to grab a Stranger here because we awakened it. This was a misplay. Don't forget, that's why we awaken it, is to get another Stranger off of it, ultimately misplaying there. The thing is, Valentina's, when you get Strangers off of Valentina, it's a little bit awkward. So you just really need to be mindful of it. Playing another Zhu Kuei from his hand. Burning one of his moles, not that it matters, and then being able to flash in a Huanglong. Good play here, essentially pays 2 will to get 3 bodies and draws a card. Can swing in with the mole for 3, swing in with the mole for 3, and then chooses to swing in with Zhu Kuei here for another 4. So dealing 1,000 damage there, taking me down to 26, passing to our turn. Playing 2, we get a Lover's Lock here. We're choosing to, I believe, do Judgment for 0 for sure, but we're also going to bounce the Zhu Kuei back to his hand. No, get a Stranger. Reason being, because we're about to make the Zhu Kuei not matter with our flip, because we don't have access to a Claw at this point. And so we're going to see what Stranger we hit before we determine what will we're going to produce with the Lover's Lock. And then we're going to flip over Valentina, probably blue-black, because the other thing is we could use that blue-black and just immediately Goddard that Huanglong out of the way. See what the rest of his hand is, get every single other copy out of there, and just say, look, you're not going to be drawing cards, you're not going to be buffing these guys up for the rest of the game. We haven't seen a Huang Long yet, so we're not as terribly concerned for it. And we would rather just get rid of all of them super fast. We did just whiff right by one. There's the other one. Ultimately, only seeing one other copy in the deck. Do get to see the hand, though. The hand didn't have another copy in it either, so it seems like Justin might have sideboarded out a couple copies of it for the purpose of some other things, like don't cheat or anything else. So now we, without Claw in hand, which we can see because we did the Goddard, we've mitigated a turn worth of damage, which is very, very nice. Because there's -4 attack on the board. All of the guys that he has on the board have only 4 attack or less, so we're just gonna be a little bit safer there. Calls the stone, another blasting waves, or first blasting waves. The first one was Atarakia's Memoria. paying 1 here to play another Hot Spring. Gets to go get him a 4 Sacred Beast. I think at this point in time he has Zeus Alice, Zeus Alice and Turtle, because I don't think he's playing Tiger. Or maybe he is playing Tiger because he sideboards it in. And so therefore we have a Tiger at this point in time. Unless there's already one in his hand. Yep, there is the Tiger there. Choosing between the Zeus Alice and the Tiger seems to be the choice. I think probably in this matchup, the Tiger is probably what you want, especially considering I have guys who can tap his stuff down. Ultimately choosing, because the precision is really nice to be able to start like precision attacking them. It's also very nice to be able to deal with Medusa, because Medusa only triggers when she's blocked or is blocked, when she blocks or is blocked. So if you target attack a Medusa, she doesn't have an opportunity to be able to tap herself and trigger her ability to prevent the thing from attacking, to shift it to the bottom of the deck. Choosing ultimately to grab the Zeus Alice, which I don't really agree with right now, unless he just wants to get a card that doesn't have a trigger out of the deck for when he plays a Huang Long. There's definitely some merit to that. He still can flash it at an instant speed off of the Hot Spring, so that might be the thought of like, well, I can at least do that. So we'll have to see kind of what he decides to do. Does choose to just pass the turn at that point, though. Moving to recovery on my end. We want to leave Valentina up at least for right now. We're going to cast that Forbidden Summoning. Gets our 3 Gorgons, which is nice because now we can tap down the Zuquay. So even if for some reason it gets buffed or whatever, it's at least while right now, or even if he does get to like Huang Long or something like that, it's like permanently tapped down. So then even if it has barrier, that doesn't matter because we're done. And now that that's resolved successfully, we're going to go ahead and call Stone with Valentina. We've got bodies out on board to be able to protect the Valentina and sit on, the 3 floating will. And you see we do have another Freya there in hand. We have a Wanderer, Nightmare Land, lots of different stuff that we can make use of. Seeing a Hero Pig to get him another friendship counter. Still really struggling to find that claw. We found the one off the mole, but since then it's been kind of hit or miss. We are going to see a Super Burning Beast Rush for a total of 5 dice rolls to see what we get. Does tap him out, but again, he does still have access to the Hot Springs, which is nice. I guess, sorry, 6 at this point. So we get to recover 2 stones, we get a 6/6 token, and then 4 strangers. In this situation with not having claw, it's probably the best roll of Super Burning Beast Rush that I could have asked for. It doesn't really give him too much to work off of. A lot of the strangers to get their most value in this matchup do take at least 3. Baroost takes at least 3 to awaken at all. Baroost usually costs 4 because they want the double awakening. You can see the double Regulus in his hand. Can't cast those until he gets to 3. So really showing that sometimes that card just does not work out the way you want it to. And again, he has to be careful here because, he has to be able to get, like, the Medusa is just a free blocker. That's just going to also be a removal spell. Nicely, thankfully, before recovery, we could use Medusa's effect and Uriel's effects to bump up all the Gorgons +2/+2 and then give Medusa an extra 2 attack. So Medusa's swinging in for 1,200 this turn, unblockable, which is very, very nice. I'm going to go ahead and do a Look of Corruption here, see what the hand is, seeing if there's another claw, particularly seeing what strangers he's got here. We do see that he snagged the Baroost, so we're immediately going to get rid of that. We see double Regulus, not super concerned about that. We see the Tree Man, definitely not worried about Tree Man. At this point, the other cards in hand, not super big deal. Hitting the Baroost, stealing the Baroost when he doesn't have claw. is just like, again, really nice. Bruce being able to give everybody swiftness and pierce, and that permanent +2 attack on attacking is just a really, really strong position to be in. And then we're going to go ahead and awaken Wanderer Nightmare Land here to do a nice little bit of a board clear while also putting an 8/8 body on board. So the way Wanderer Nightmare Land works is on resolution, you pick a number. Their opponent has to pick one of their resonators of that cost and banish it. If I awaken it by removing 3 resonators in my graveyard, which I did by awakening the discard spell that I didn't end up getting a stranger for, and then the Percival early on, you can remove all of the resonators that are that cost. So a nice little board clear there. Medusa gets to swing in for a nice 12 damage, still set up a nice blocker wall, still got access to 3 will, puts me in a really good spot here. In comes the Fairy Alice, and then in comes another Zukwe, gets to burn something for 6. Seeing what he's going to try to target with it. But instead, we're going to say, you know what? Let's be a little bit more dangerous and steal a little bit more of that value as well, just keeping the board for Pricia clean as much as possible. And we're going to flash in the Freya to redirect the Zukwe's burn 6 to the token and kill it. We don't really care about it. We can't kill the Zalus. We don't want to kill the Zukwe that's tapped. We don't want to kill the Zukwe out on board because 1, it's not hitting me for any damage, and 2, because there's already another Zukwe. Huang Long has that name on lock, so it makes the most sense to just kill the 6/6 token, get it off the board. Again, keep the threats as low as possible while Justin is trying to struggle to find a claw. Down comes Tree Man, gets him a stone into play rested. There's really no reason to not at least play him. It is a 2,000 strength body that if I don't answer becomes a 2,000 strength beater on the following turn. Has a couple Regulus in hand, but really not much to spend that will on. Looks like there is a Huang Long in there, which is nice to be able to start getting that 3rd Sacred Beast. So at this point in time, we're going to see Turtle, or it's got to be Turtle or Tiger at this point. There's the Turtle. He has a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4 Sacred Beasts, so he could bounce a 4-drop or less. The clear target is probably Medusa. You don't want to bounce any of my strangers back. You definitely don't want to bounce Wanderer or Nightmare Land back. Uriel can just, if you bounce Uriel or Steno, then I just get to like replay them next turn and they apply their effect to something else that's relevant at the time rather than potentially blanking them out. And he could bounce his own Huang Long. That's definitely the option to recast and set up that way. So we'll have to see kind of what he decides to take. Yeah, we pick up the own Huang Long, which is really nice to just set it up for something else later. It's not going to do much this turn anyway because he only has access to 3, and he doesn't have the will to cast it again. And he doesn't have Tiger in hand, so it makes sense to like keep it protected and put it back in his hand just by doing that. We see, I don't think we saw any pump ups during the recovery because we were tapped out. So down comes the blue Percival, which gets us a space-time anomaly, which is super nice. It draws us cards. Swing in for choosing to call stone because that makes the most sense here, because we're sitting way high up on will and we want to be able to start picking stuff off. At this point in time, we were talking about, like, I was trying to confirm whether or not, because I didn't take notes during this match, if I had seen a Super Burning Beast Rush in his hand, the different times that I've looked at his hand, and he was like, no, I haven't. So we're swinging in here for 8 with the Medusa, saying if it's going to turn into a removal spell in either way. Oh, no, choosing to not attack. Starting to think about attacking and then saying, wait a minute, it makes more sense to leave it as a blocker. Instead, we're going to go and try to use Freya to try to kill that Zukwe that's permanently tapped. And the reason why we're doing this is we kind of want him to block. So, like, if he blocks here, it's not going to kill the Freya anyway, and it starts to let us, like, chip some stuff away here. He blocks with the Tree Man, who's a 0/2000. So we don't even lose Freya that way either. And you see we do have access to... we can play a Gorgon plus 2 space times, which is really nice. The Steno is now going to try to attack into the Zukwe, try to get that off board. He says that's fine, you can take that damage, that's okay. Pay 3 more. Gonna play another Steno. Steno is going to make Tree Man have no effect. So now he's permanently a 0/20. And then leaving up the Medusa as a blocker makes sense here because we still have other things that can swing that are more threatening, and Medusa as a blocker is also a pseudo removal spell. So swinging in with Wanderer of the Nightmare Land for that 8 damage at face, finally attempting to push that through. Justin says that's fine, I'll take it, go down to 20. At that point in time, we've got access to double space time, which is very, very nice. We know that his only potential other 4 Sacred Beasts at this point is a Tiger. We know he has a Huang Long in hand. The problem is we can't really kill the Huang Long with double space time, which doesn't feel great. We'd absolutely have to do double space time, and it's just not really optimal to just kill it that way. It'd be better to kill in response, kill the Zukwe to get that off board or something. So they're just make sure that we don't ever get to 4 Sacred Beasts at one time. Everything gets to untap because the Uriel that was tapping something down, the Zukwe, is now dead. So that's kind of irrelevant. We're going to go ahead and see a 600 attack strength Regulus come into play. So the problem with Regulus here is Regulus can start swinging into stuff that can't kill him, like Wanderer in Nightmare Land, Steno, probably the Steno is probably the obvious choice to make it so that stuff can have abilities again. And it's not going to die, but I'm going to take burn damage for it. So that's really good for him in this situation. Problem being that I do have Medusa, and Medusa gets to serve as a nice blocker to try to push it to go back to the bottom of his deck. So yeah, the Regulus is going to swing at the Steno. We're going to do some kind of rearranging of the board here to kind of make it more obvious as to where the damage is going. We're just, remembering what is assigned to what. The Steno's not currently assigned to anything. He is attacking into the Steno for 6. Recognizing, he might be trying to get us to burn damage. We don't want to be taking any burn damage. Let's use Medusa on the Regulus to trigger and try to put it back at the bottom of his deck. We're talking about how the trigger is there, and even if he kills the Medusa at this point, the Regulus is going away. So I'm not going to take any burn damage, but we're still kind of seeing what he wants to do potentially in response. So we see him pay 1 here. Because of the number of friendship counters he has, it only costs him 1. Thinking about playing that Burning Rush that's in his hand to deal 1,000 damage to the Medusa. response to that, we're going to go ahead and use Medusa's effect to pump all of our Gorgons up, and then use Uriel's effect to pump up Medusa's defense by 200. So we're trying to make Medusa have 1200 defense so that she'll survive through the Burning Rush, because Medusa is absolutely the powerhouse right now in terms of getting us to be able to deal damage and spot remove Justin's field. We're going to then see an Awakening on Pricia's encouragement, targeting the Regulus. So the Regulus is going to try to do 6 additional damage to the Medusa. Thankfully, we have in response to that, which is that space time we saw earlier, which we can use to do -5 attack to the Regulus. So it'll burn Medusa for 1, then Medusa will take another 10, still have 100 defense left, and then the Regulus gets shuffled away. Now the bonus for Justin here is he does get to at least see a stranger here, and he hasn't called stone yet, so if he hits a red stone, he could potentially play the Huang Long and then go off that way to get his 4th Sacred Beast. But again, we're at the same problem before, where there's no Huanglongs left, so there's no way to pump up everything else that way. So a Huang Long here would only be would not be lethal damage. It would be 4 plus 1. He's going to play the Huang Long here. You saw a little edit there as we were talking about the damage of everything. So he gets to gain 8 life off the Tiger, but Tiger hits for 2. Alice hits for 4, so that's 6. Huang Long hits for 9, that's 15, and then Turtle hits for 1, so 16, so leaves me at 1,000. So ultimately Justin decides I just want to put out the other body on board, and then I'm going to pass the turn because it doesn't make sense for me to swing in, because at this point with what I have on board, the crackback is easily 2,800 damage. Swinging in for 7, block with Tree Man again, so they block off each other. Swing in, start to pick up Medusa, realizing I probably should wait for that. Swinging in for 6 with Valentina. Says that's fine, go down to 22. Swing in with the Wanderer in Nightmare Land, take him down to 14. Kind of just thinking about exactly how we want to sequence this out. We're going to go ahead and try to swing at the Zeus Alice here. In response to the block with the turtle, we'll flash in the blue wizard so that we cancel that damage trigger. And once again, we kill the Zhan Wu just like we did in the first one. Now we can target his 4 Sacred Beasts. In comes in the Steno, who's swinging for 7. Block with the Zuquei. We've got the Space Time from Grave to answer that. So that'll kill him. So he'll go down to 7. And then at that point in time, we can swing in with Medusa, who's unblockable, and that'll find us our last little bit of damage. So we can block. We're just going to put it back on the bottom of his deck. Medusa gets to swing in through here, puts it on the bottom of his deck, extending the handshake. There it is. There is the connection. So that is the match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Finally seeing that claw. Just a good illustration of what happens when Regalia decks can't find their Regalia. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Deck profiles will be up later this week, as well as the Machina deck list. Sorry for all those delays. But again, huge thanks to Justin for playing this match, and hope you guys really enjoyed it. And for Min for sending me the inspiration for the Gorgons. But until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.